r/malicious compliance. First story. My time is valuable. I was a bartender in a fancy restaurant in a snotty town. The restaurant was run by a snotty, affected, rude manager. The time clock was right inside the door used by the employees, and the coat room was in a small room across the restaurant from the employee entrance. It took maybe 20 seconds to get there and hang up your coat. Everyone would walk in, clock in, and then put our coats away. I had just clocked in and was walking to the coat room, removing my coat as I went. Rude manager grabbed me and in a very loud and rude tone said, "Stop. Go back and clock out. Put your coat away, then clock in." Okay, sure dude. The thing is, I used to stop on the way in and buy the newspapers for the bar. No big deal. Of course, it was off the clock. But not anymore. From then on, I would drive straight to work without stopping for the papers. I would get in, put my coat away, walk back across the restaurant and clock in, then go back to the coat room and put my coat back on, leave, and buy the newspapers for the bar, then go back and put my coat away, all on the clock. In order to save the restaurant 20 seconds per day on the time clock, rude manager ended up costing them more than an hour per week extra. I got more money. He got no more polite. The restaurant went out of business a few months later. Second story. You want to take my entire salary as a voluntary pension contribution? Okay then. I'm hoping this is the right place for this, and it may make someone smile. It's rather long-winded, but not as long as I have kept this up for. Apologies because I'm on a mobile. Also my spelling is crap. So sorry in advance. I was reminded of this by yet another weary letter asking if I wanted to cash my pension in early. Obviously the answer was no. This happened a very long time ago, 25 plus years, and is theoretically still going on. I was happily working in a local office in my 20s when I was, out of the blue, headhunted by another company. The position was a promotion, more money, and I was to be trained to take over from the office manager when he retired. I took the job. It was horrible. The work was nothing like they had said. I was basically looking after a bunch of idiots who couldn't tell their asses from their elbows or be honest about their work timings. They lied on job sheets, didn't turn up for work, and I spent the entire time dealing with crisis after crisis. I had been there about 3 months and looking for a way out when the manager suddenly announced the office was closing. Imagine quiet dances of joy on my part. No one else was happy though. I quietly asked the manager if he knew this was happening when they had offered me the job, and he refused to answer. This was a very valuable lesson for my future because it made me realize that not everyone has your best interests at heart. A few days later I got my monthly payslip, and for the first and only time in my life, it had a negative value. I nearly had a heart attack. From my salary they had taken not only emergency tax, which they didn't need to do because they had my correct forms and hadn't in the previous payslips, but also a large chunk for the company's pension scheme, which I didn't have to join because of my age. The HR department had decided I had to be older than I was because of the job I had. I was so upset. I hadn't signed up for this and asked for it back. The HR department basically told me to go do one, and they wouldn't consider it, even though their paperwork said that at their discretion they could cancel my voluntary pension contribution. There was nothing I could do. I was very smugly told that there wasn't anything in the scheme's rulebook to cover their taking money in these circumstances. I was spitting feathers when I had to pay them before I could leave. Admittedly it was only a couple of pounds, but it was the principle. Now here is where the malicious compliance comes in. A few months later, to my surprise, the pension people rang me at my new place of work and asked where they could send me a check for my contributions to. I thought about it for a split second before saying no, I'm good. It can stay in your pension scheme. They were so shocked and kept insisting they should send me a check, and I just said no, keep it in the scheme. You wanted it, you got it. The reason I did this was because when I moaned to my dad about this, dear old dad had laughed and pointed out that the scheme would be sending me statements every year to tell me how much my contribution had increased and how much I would be getting, and asking whether I had any questions. Wisely, or rather unwisely, he pointed out that this would cost a lot more than the amount I had paid in. So I left it there. They insisted it should come out of my salary so they can damn well invest it for me. Over the years I have been contacted by them offering to pay me different amounts of money to settle it, and I have said no, I'm good each time. When I got married I dutifully filled out all the paperwork for a change of name and sent it off to them. This kicked off another round of let us settle with you and me saying no. In 3 years I will be entitled to a lump sum of approximately £75 plus her annual pension of £17. I suspect that over the years it's cost them a lot more to manage than that. Quite frankly I may not claim it when the time comes, as that apparently would kick off a lot more paperwork, as they have to have a reason for people not to claim. Admittedly, looking back on this as I type, it all seems so silly and pathetic, but it still brings a smile to my face when I think of the panic in the little man's voice when I told him my minuscule, to them, but entire salary to me could stay in the scheme. He did try to force me to take the money, but as I pointed out to him, there wasn't a rule covering money taken in this situation, but there was a rule saying all contributions accepted by the scheme had to be processed. Third story. Client wants us to create a design exactly like their ugly PowerPoint. We comply. As a designer, I try to educate my clients on design and why something has to be done a certain way. My agency is not cheap, so we make it quite clear that they are paying for our experience and knowledge, not some Photoshop monkey. Most of the time, my clients are appreciative and enjoy the extra guidance and professional advice. Occasionally, we get fun jobs. The sales pitch went well enough. The business owner, Bob, seemed like a decent guy and happy to trust our professional expertise. However, shortly after signing the deal, he brought on a new manager, Karen, who was put in charge of marketing, including the new website we were just contracted to do. It quickly became clear that Karen thought of herself as a multidisciplinary genius and despises us because she thinks she can do better than a professional design agency. Karen loves sending over incomprehensible design instructions and feedback in the form of design mock-ups she creates in PowerPoint. There's ugly as the devil's butthole after a strong curry, but we try our best to translate the abominations she birthed into good-looking professional design proposals that best reflects the intent of her ideas. Karen did not like it one bit. Karen was rude, uncooperative, and removed Bob from the ML threads when we tried to reach out to him to get his opinion. When we sent over a design, she would bitch about how it wasn't one she wanted and scream over the phone while our team patiently explained why we couldn't design exactly as she wanted. Mainly, it would be ugly as heck and nobody would want to do business with them with a website like that. The last time Karen bitched about how we were stupid morons for not doing what she wanted, we got her on the phone with Bob. She was screaming incomprehensibly and nobody got a word in. Finally, Bob took her side and said Karen is extremely experienced and knows what she's doing. I want your team to follow every instruction exactly as she asks. No problem. Once again, Karen sent over a ridiculous 70 MB PowerPoint. If we followed it exactly, it would look like a website from the 90s with the worst ducks ever. We went through every little pixel of her PPT, asking her, so do you want us to copy this exactly? To which she would reply with a smug yes. So we documented her instructions down to the letter to cover our asses. Once again, we asked Bob, are you sure? Reply, yes, please hurry up and make those changes exactly as she asked. Okie dokie. We copied every ugly font choice, every terrible gradient, every hideous element into the design. We even went the extra mile to export the ugly lopsided shapes she drew as PNG graphics, so it would all be exactly as she wanted. Then we sent the design over. Here is the design. We have done everything exactly as instructed. Karen once again replied, taking Bob out of the loop. Perfect. Now, it wasn't so hard to do things exactly as I asked, was it? We waited. Bob exploded, demanding a meeting the very next day to explain why we were delivering such shoddy work. We go to the meeting and Karen starts demanding that we propose a completely new design. We presented all past designs, the document in which Karen confirmed that she wanted all the changes, the countless emails in which we painstakingly explained to her why her ideas suck, and finally, the last email in which she praised us. You see, Bob, after our last call with you, we had followed Karen's instructions to the letter, exactly as she had asked. She seemed very happy with it. I'm confused. Why the quick change of heart? I then pull out the contract and calmly point out the portion which stated the number of design proposals we would create. Karen had used up all of it. I had reminded her that she was limited to 10th number of proposals, but she clearly didn't remember any of it because she didn't bother reading our emails and would keep talking or yelling over us when she spoke on the phone. I looked Bob in the eye and told him he could either pay extra for each additional new proposal Karen wants or choose from the existing designs done. They ask for some time to discuss privately. We break for coffee. Well, Karen is extremely experienced in this field. We will go with the last design, since it is exactly as she wanted. Even my intern couldn't hold back his surprise. As we drive back to the office, he asks, "Is Karen sleeping with Bob or something? Why does she have him by the balls like that?" I shrug. It's his business, and we are getting paid anyway, and he clearly doesn't appreciate our design expertise after all. The less time we spend arguing with them, the more time we could use to focus on my appreciative good clients. We make Bob and Karen sign off on the design and finish up the project quickly. Karen still tries to be difficult, but we stick to the contracted terms and she couldn't do anything. 2 months after the project ended, I get a call from Bob. He began with some small talk about innocuous project-related business, but I realized it wasn't the purpose of his call. Karen had been fired after making more serious mistakes causing major losses to his company. He sounded contrite, but did not offer any real apology. That's terrible, Bob. I'm so shocked. I thought Karen was extremely experienced and knew what she was doing. Edit. Sorry guys. As much as I would love to show you the site or Karen's presentations, I'm afraid I must keep things anonymous. You'll have to trust that it looks every bit terrible and outdated as a website designed by a Karen, TM, could be. We did not put our company name in the footer, and it is obviously not included in my company's portfolio.